Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Hello and welcome to the A24 project here in the Nerd Party Network. My name is Lee Hutchison and Dallas King and I make our way through the A24 filmography and along the way bring you interviews with the talent involved in front of and behind the camera. This week we welcome Samantha Ashley, known for her recent role in the brilliant miniseries The Curse, alongside Emma Stone, Nathan Fielder and Benny Safdie. Samantha plays Tonya, a production assistant on the show Fliplanthropy, working alongside Whitney, Asher and Dougie. Join us as Samantha recounts her journey to starring in the acclaimed The Curse, collaborating with this exceptional cast, and delving into her exciting career trajectory thus far. Thanks so much to Samantha for joining me, and hope you too will enjoy this episode. What kind of started your passion for acting, and how have you kind of turned it into a career?
So I've been I've been passionate about acting for as long as I can remember. Um, a kid, really. I mean, I love playing pretend as a kid. I think all kids do. But really, I think I was like maybe 11 or so when my aunt took me to my first like play, like musical theater piece that I had ever seen, and that was Rent by Jonathan Larson. And it was done at like a high school in New Jersey by one of my cousins, like no Broadway or anything like that, believe it or not. And yeah, I was just got super, super inspired by it. And I don't know, I just knew I was like that. And between watching movies, I love movies. I feel like movies raised me. I grew up as an only child, so lots and lots and lots and lots of movies.
What movies did you enjoy when you were younger, and what do you kind of enjoy now?
Oh, that's a good question. I watched a lot of movies on repeat. Like, I mean, like the classics. Like, I loved Romeo and Juliet by Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes. I've seen that movie like I don't know how many times. 13 going on 30 by Jennifer Gardner. Just a lot of like those early 2000 movies. I loved horror films too. So like horror was like a big genre that I would watch. Um, and now I like a lot more independent films. And I used to watch independent films too. Like on demand was a big thing. And I remember just like scrolling and not having nearly as many options as we have now, and just watching a lot of weird movies. Um, and yeah, just really enjoying them. Um, but yeah, I just remember like really thinking like I love that. I think that's what I want to do. And then when I was in eighth grade, I said, okay, if this is what I want to do, maybe I should join the school play. And I've always had like severe anxiety. So I think the first few times I like got on a stage, I trusted my instincts, but I also like wasn't very good. I was just kind of like giving myself, I guess, this exposure therapy to like just face my fears and be in front of a crowd. And yeah, after that, it was just kind of like always participating in like in ways that I can in school or in my community, and finding little ways to just learn more and more about it. And the more I learned about it, the more I fell deeper and deeper in love with it. It was almost like one affirmation after another. And yeah, I just never saw myself doing anything else. I always knew I was going to pursue it. And I studied theater in college. I got my associate's degree in theater. And then after that, I trained at a studio in Tampa, Florida. No longer open. It got shut down during COVID, unfortunately. It was called the Performer Studio Workshop. But while I trained at that studio while in college, I mean, again, it was just like I'm just gonna train to be an actor. I just want to learn acting. And in that studio, we got exposure to casting directors like Ryan Glorioso, Elizabeth Coulon, um, Tyler Perry's casting director. I forget her name. Forgive me. Um, but yes, just to name a few, a couple of casting directors like that, and agents, and that's kind of what led me. That was the door that led me into like getting involved professionally in film and TV, which was always the dream, to be on the screen as well.
And you've made that dream a reality. My obviously first introduction to you was The Curse, but you've started quite a lot of things already. What would you maybe recommend people to check out? I saw that you were starring in Roswell, New Mexico. Being a 90s kid, I remembered really being quite fond of the original, and that theme song is still stuck in my head all these years later, so I'll definitely have to revisit this new one.
Yeah, yeah, that was a lot of fun. I was really excited to be a part of that because I got a recurring guest star on that one, so I was in a few episodes and I got to go back like a few different times. And yeah, that one was just really a lot of fun. It was just a lot of fun. I played a student, a high school student, this rebellious kid who was in Janine's class, and I pretty much, yeah, I can't actually remember quite exactly the reason for her being there, but essentially she ends up getting like hypnotized by the alien and like under a spell, and yeah, they pretty much used me as bait to pretty much get to Janine's character. So it was just a lot of fun to shoot. It was the first time I had like a stunt double. And I was doing like this action like fantasy stuff. So all of that was really like cool to see and experience. And yeah, I feel like that's always the cool part about working. And fortunately for me, like I've I've had some consistency before the strike, of course. So I felt like I had a lot of different like roles and experiences, and they've all been really, really different in their own ways. And they've all just like they're always a learning experience. So I've just embraced like having fun and just like I always just want to suck it in when I'm there too, because I'm still so fresh, and being on set is so foreign to me still. So I think I always have those jitters no matter what I do, of like, oh, I'm on set again, you know? So getting used to that as well.
I suppose talking of sets, when did you sort of first become aware of the opportunity for The Curse? Was something that immediately caught your attention when you saw who was involved in it?
So funny story. I was in Kentucky filming an independent movie, and so I was working already. I was on set for that, and my manager had sent me this, or my agent had sent me this audition, my New Mexico agent. And I didn't think anything of it. To be honest with you, I didn't know like Nathan Fielder's name didn't ring a bell at the time. I didn't really know much of him. Um, and yeah, I remember coming home late from set, being a little frustrated, having worked that day for whatever reason. I can't really remember at the time, but I do remember being like not in a good mood. And I didn't have like my MacBook at the time. I had a really shitty old Dell laptop, and it wouldn't charge, and I was having these technical difficulties, and I needed to get this audition in like at a certain time, and it was like a one-liner. It was like because it's a recurring co-star, and I mean the three main characters are Benny's, Nathan, and Emma's characters in the show. And then of course you have like those other characters who have a little bit more of a drive in the story. Um, and yeah, I just remember just thinking like, I don't want to do this audition. Like, it's like, what am I missing out on? Like, it's a stupid like little one-liner for an AD role. Like, and because I was trying and it wasn't working out. And I can't remember, but my manager ended up reading for me last minute, and I managed, I think, to get everything working. But I remember hitting up like cast members, like, "Hey, can you guys read for me?" Or like, "Can I borrow somebody's phone because I'm having issues?" And it ended up working out. I was like, "Let's just get this in before my laptop dies again." And I was just like, I know what an AD is, you know. I've worked with a few of them, and I know what their jobs are, and despite their personalities. I feel like they have a type and a role that they play, and so that's what I did, and I just use the energy that I was in, which is something that I was taught to always do as an actor, um, is to never kind of like ignore the state that you're in when you walk into a room and it's time to deliver the performance. So yeah, I kind of just did it. And then like a month or so, I can't remember the time in between. Some time went by. Because I was done with that show and I mean, with that film, and I had just moved from Tampa to LA. And I remember sitting in LA, and at the time I was staying in a dining room in my friend's apartment. I hadn't had my own room yet. I had just gotten there. And I remember just being so like just overwhelmed already with the actor's life in LA. And my manager called me and was like, "You have a call back for that show." And then I remember then I IMDb'd the show, and I was like, "Oh, like let me really like look at what this is now and prepare." And I saw that Emma Stone was attached to it, and forget about it with the nerves. The stakes were high, like now I was just like, oh my God, these people. I was like, I have like A24. I was like, oh my God, like I have to get this. And all of a sudden, like I put this pressure on myself, right? Because of what it is. But at the same time, like I I feel like I know myself enough that I was able to like let that go after like the initial excitement of it all to an extent because I was still a little nervous. But yeah, I just remember for the callback, it was with Nathan and the casting director and Jennifer. And then yeah, I just remember doing what I did, and right like the next day or so I had gotten like the confirmation that I got the role. And I remember he said in the callback, he was just like, believe it or not, like not many people know how to play like an AD. He's like, so thank you. And I was like, yeah, I'm glad I could be the answer to your problem. And I I don't know why I said that, but like yeah, I was just like great. And then he kind of like chuckled. And yeah, I don't remember thinking much of it after that. Like I blew it or I got it. Like I was just kind of like, I'm glad that's done and I hope I get it, and I got it and it was great. Timing was perfect.
One of the people you spoke about there was Jennifer Vendetti. So she's like this incredibly well known like casting director. She's worked on all of the Safdie projects. Like everyone seems to hold up her work from Euphoria so highly. Like it's like street and social media casting. Was she involved in sort of finding you in the first place, or was she someone just there in the room casting her eye over the cast over the potential cast?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure she's the one that handed off my initial tape to the producers. So the first tape that I had done in Kentucky, um, that that was for her. And that was I had gotten that through my New Mexico agent. So I have a regional agent in New Mexico, and from to my understanding, all of the casting for that was done locally, including the crew. Aside from like the people, of course, that they brought over from LA, it was kind of a mix of that, but like majority of the cast and crew were hired locally. And yeah, it was a mix of the street casting and kind of just going through those local agencies, because a lot of the other actors that I spoken to too, they were signed, and they too had gotten it through their agencies. And then you had like these real people, like the firemen who that in that one episode, who obviously they were real firemen. So yeah, I thought that was really, really cool. And I'm really glad that like I had that opportunity. Like I feel like that's a huge thing now. A lot of the casting is done locally as well as LA. A lot of a lot of the LA castings they're always for like the bigger lead roles, and then in that aspect, it's like there's a lot of different types of competition and I think opportunities that are available compared to like the regional markets and when people are casting locally. Um, so yeah, like that's pretty much how I got that opportunity. And I can't remember, but something tells me that I had auditioned for her at least like a handful of times prior to the curse. Um, so yeah, I definitely looked her up, and I'm always really grateful to be in the room with casting directors that I admire. I absolutely I have a huge admiration and respect for casting directors, and especially when like people like Jennifer and the work that they do and the people that they cast. I think it's always really raw and refreshing, and I find that it's not always a star, a familiar face, and it's new people, you know, and real people, and I think I think that's something that we always need to see, you know.
I'm curious as well. One of the things I was always wondering when watching it is, so say for example yourself, you go for this role of an assistant director, you maybe read the scripts. Like when you're reading the scripts, do you have an idea of the kind of tone or the atmosphere of this type of show you're kind of walking into, or is it very much reading like, oh, these people are making a show, it's it's going to be a bit odd, and then actually when you get to set, it's a very different type of tone. What do you kind of know going in from like the script and then I guess the prep?
For sure. That's a good question. I always do my research even for the audition. So if I get the job, I just dive deeper and I use I got the role for a reason. So I always use that as a foundation. And then I kind of just dive deeper from there if I do get the role. But when I audition, I treat every audition the same. And if I have the time to IMDb and do my research, like I'll do it so that I can have an understanding of who the director is and what the tone of this might be. I don't always have all of the information and the sides, and I may not always get that right. So I don't always pressure myself. I just do the best that I can, and I try to get a general understanding of it, like a dark comedy versus like like a sitcom or like a family drama. I'm well aware as an actor that all of those things have different tones, and that the director, him or herself, may have a particular tone as well. So I just try to get those two things and take what I can from the writing and ultimately go through my approach as an actor, and then and I do the best that I can, and then I kind of like throw it all out the window and try to be as grounded as I can be when it's time to deliver.
You mentioned obviously you weren't like familiar with Nathan Fielder at first. When you kind of get a bit more of an idea of him and you see sort of his previous work, like Nathan for you, it's that reality sort of bending discomfort, and then you think of like Benny Safdie's involvement, and I just think of like watching films like Uncut Gems and Good Time in the Cinema, and you've just got that stress and anxiety. Did you kind of start to get the impression it might be in a similar vein to that as well from your research?
Yes and no. I don't so I didn't get the whole script, you know. It was kind of like I only got my sides, and I had very few lines in this show. So I just felt like it was gonna be weird. I knew it was gonna highlight realism more than anything. And then I knew it was gonna get like genre bendy, as you were saying, in some aspect. I just didn't know how that was gonna happen, or like the tone of it either, because I haven't seen all of Nathan's work, but I did see it was what was it called? It was
The
the
rehearsal?
yes, the rehearsal. Yes, yes, yes. And so like I felt like ultimately the show was going to lean into that completely. And I was surprised to say the least by like the twists and turns that it took, but I also wasn't, if that makes sense. Like you know, so like I didn't really know what to expect, though, to answer your question.
I
Yeah.
think that's the same as the audience members. Like me and my partner would watch, and it's just like, I don't know where this scene's going. I don't know where this thread's maybe going to pull out, and it made such a great discomfort in an audience member. That's just so hard to get when you know, cinema may be a bit easier, but TV, you're so often distracted in your home. Whereas that you were just like, I don't know where any of this is going, and I can't wait to see where it kind of flows into.
Yeah, that's what I loved about it. I feel like in a weird way, it kept me at the edge of my seat, you know, and it's very often like unless it's like a different type of show, like a sci-fi or like something that like where every episode like there's like a literal cliffhanger, like in Yellow Jackets or something, you know, like in this way it was just so different. And I love realism myself, you know. So in that sense I loved it. It was great.
You got like a front row seat for a lot of discomfort and those sorts of things. Like I think of that dynamic that you had with like Emma Stone's like Whitney, where you seem to be her connection to the community or other members of like the team and so on. What did you sort of make of that dynamic between the two of you? I always think of that scene where you get sent off to like go get those people for our show, or you're bringing the bad news to her. What did you think of that kind of dynamic you shared?
I think as an AD, you hate to be the bearer of bad news, like don't shoot the messenger type thing, you know, and ultimately like you kind of get over that at some point along the process because it's part of the job. And but as far as like the dynamic between the two, I Whitney's can be very pretentious and obviously so. And so I feel like Tonya was just annoyed to kind of like be dealing with these amateurs. And that's kind of like part of what comes with like the unscripted shows and HGTV and all of that. And ultimately, again, like the pressure's always going to be on like the AD too, and they're going to feel it from almost every department, you know? And so in that sense, I felt like she was the one that was just trying to get things done. And so it's one thing when inconveniences on set happen, but it's another thing when someone's constantly perpetuating these things. And so I felt like the nature of that was what created like this attitude for her. And on top of just like Whitney's character, you know, like she doesn't help. So I feel like yeah, that's kind of like how I interpret it and played it at least.
Some of my a couple of my favorite scenes were when you and Dougie Benny Safdie's character Dougie are shooting these like confessional scenes as they're starting to craft the show, and they're really again awkward, insightful, just brilliant showcases from Nathan and Emma Stone. What was it like to watch those sorts of confessional scenes in this really tight little room?
Oh, it was great. It was like it was watching Emma Stone deliver a monologue up close and personal. So, as an actor, that part of it was amazing. Again, it was just one of more of those like intimate scenes that I actually got to like be present for. Although I wasn't directly interacting with her in that particular scene, it was great to watch. And then yeah, just in general as Tonya, I felt like it was her first time probably seeing Whitney in a more honest moment, one of her more honest, vulnerable moments, in which they don't really have that relationship. So it was kind of like seeing her in a new light in that sense, in that particular moment.
It's only been crazy thing. It's been less than a week since she just won the Oscar for her brilliant performance in Poor Things. What was it like to work alongside an actress like that? And did you get any hints and tips from her as well?
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, I took in every moment, and she's a beautiful human being as well. Like, as she's a wonderful actress and performer, and she's also like a really humble and graceful person. And I was really, really grateful to work with her. A lot of the times I feel like when I wasn't when I wasn't doing a scene with her, or like when I wasn't directly involved in the scene, but like more like doing background work or kind of just sitting off on the side, I observed a lot. Um, and there was a moment that I we got to talk a little bit more, and it was when we were shooting the car scene, because we were sitting in the car together. So I feel like I like that was like a moment to kind of like pick her brain a little bit or just talk to her a bit. And yeah, I just remember we were talking about acting and like family and just simple stuff, kind of just like, yeah, like things like that, how we both love the craft and how we don't know how people direct and write and act at the same time, because that's absurd. So we were definitely admiring Benny and Nathan's ability to do that. Yeah, and yeah, I just I really I took in that moment, and yeah, I felt like it was overall just a really great opportunity. And um when we worked together directly, I it was just presence, it was like we just bounced off of each other, and a little different each time. For the most part, we stuck to the script. That every once in a while there would be like an ad lib or maybe a little improv, like in between or something like that.
Was that kind of the set where that kind of thing's encouraged? Where I kind of think with something like this, there's so much of what makes the curse great is people's reactions to what's going on. Like how much like say do you have over kind of how you can respond to what's unfolding in front of you, or is it very much dictated in the script, or is it very much trusted to you as an actress by kind of Nathan, the director?
Yeah, again, from like my sides at least, and what I was given and able to read, there was no particular like direction written in the script where like in the example that you said, like where my character would feel uncomfortable in a moment, or my character is thinking this in the moment. I think like in general, like all of the characters, aside from Dougie, Asher, and Whitney's, aside from those three, I feel like, yeah, there wasn't any like particular direction. There was a trust and what we authentically brought to the characters. And I think that's part of casting, right? That's kind of like the first step. It's they cast these people for a reason, because we're already bringing something that's the director was looking for to be delivered. And the more you bring that, um, and you do your part as an actor, then it leaves room for more creative choices on the day when it comes time to film. So there were a couple of times I feel like with the actors who weren't as experienced, or like the non-actors there, there was a little bit more direction and like those in between scenes, um like those little scene fillers. But other than that, like that I would see direction in that sense. Or like if there was a scene with Asher, Dougie, and Whitney, or with the two of them, um there would be, I feel like, more creative direction. They would have more discussions amongst each other, and they would direct each other, but they would also like go back and look at the monitor together if one of them was filming. So it was, yeah, it was just like a lot of, I saw like a lot of like more creative direction than anything, not like, oh, do this, because again, it's the realism, right? So the nature of realism is kind of like is that exactly that kind of, I mean, being a fly on the wall in all in all aspects, and um yeah, just letting people be people, you know.
What would like be a typical day on set be like? So say for example, you only get your sides and stuff. Would you get a fuller idea of like this is where the story is going on this Thursday of shooting, and what would be kind of your average day like for you?
So it was block shooting. The whole shoot was done that way. So I was there from the beginning of the shoot to the end of the shoot. Although I was only in the last half of the season. So yeah, I started shooting like again at the beginning when they started that same month, and it was very sporadic because again, like I had a pretty small role, like although I occurred in a few episodes. um it's like I would shoot a scene here of like episode 4, and we were starting with episode 4 on like the first day, then we jump to 9 and then maybe end with episode 4, you know, so everything was like all over the place.
Would that add to the off-kilter feeling of like having an idea of where some things are going and then kind of throwing you around a bit?
For sure, for sure. And like it was like I I didn't quite know again where anything was going, and having to prepare like that, it's always like, oh my God, like what is happening now, you know? And it's like sometimes I'll get more information that'll help if I go back to shooting episode 4. And I work a little backwards that way. So it was an interesting way to work that way, because the other shows that I've done have been network TV, and so it that's still pretty old school. It's like I film that week, and like a couple months later the show is being released, and everything is being done in order. um so yeah, in that sense it was a little all over the place. But I felt really lucky to like be there from the beginning to the end. It was that part of it was amazing too, you know. So I would work like a week one day here and then have like a week or maybe 2 off and then work 3 days in one week. Um, and yeah, sometimes a full day, sometimes half a day. It really just depended.
Was there a kind of
Um,
solid group of you that were maybe in those blocks? So like, did that kind of help build a bit of a community within this kind of production as well? And was there any sort of really kind of special days for you, whether it was shooting or having this bit of time down in New Mexico?
yeah, both. I was I spent a lot of time with the actress who plays Whitney's assistant. And then of course Dougie's crew. I mean, like we're doing all of our scenes together. So I bonded with Dougie's crew, and that's always really, really cool. It's always a lot of fun. My most favorite day was rap day for sure. Rap day was great. Um, yeah, it was a lot of fun, obviously, like rap days, rap day. And I got to thank the three of them. Like I wrote them a thank you card, and um Emma Stone was kind enough to like sign a picture so that I can gift it to my parents.
That kind of thing where you think of like parents are so supportive, especially can imagine the arts, like driving people to like theater classes and shows and so on. And there's that kind of thing of like it was all kind of worth it. You were one of the 1% that's broken through.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's a full circle moment. It was amazing. I mean, I remember seeing her in Superbad when I was like in 6th grade. So, I, and I got to tell her that, you know, I got to express my gratitude to her, and you know, I had I think I had just moved yeah, I just moved to LA. Yeah. So we talked about that, and she wished me a lot of luck on my journey with that. So like I said, she was a really, really sweet person. Fortunately, I didn't get to talk too much to Benny and Nathan. They were very, very busy. And so the last thing I want to do is like, mingle and during times when it's not appropriate to mingle. So I found my little opportunities here and there, but for the most part, I like to be respectful of the space and people doing the work that they need to do before I kind of like, do any time kind of talking or,
Yeah.
connecting.
I saw a great thing recently where I think it was Benny Safdie was on some sort of red carpet event, and he just looked like he was still fully in his Dougie outfit and hair, and everyone was
Oh
like going,
yeah.
"Is this guy like just totally fully embraced method acting and is still stuck as this Dougie?" It was absolutely brilliant little clip and so on. I thought he was fantastic in the role, like this real puppet master, and yeah, I loved him.
Yeah. I mean, it was great to see him as Dougie and then in Oppenheimer and that as that character in the same year. It's like, wow, man, he really kind of blew me away with that one.
Was it ever sort of disorientating shooting, like, especially for your role, like shooting a show within a show, and having sort of your character's arc within this like meta narrative where there's an assistant director, I imagine, working on the curse, and you're an assistant director working on the curse. And was it ever sort of bizarre just thinking there's a shoot here and then there's a bigger shoot kind of taking place around it?
Oh, for sure. The world within the world is always kind of like a trippy thing. It's always super trippy. And I think that's what makes it fun too. Like a lot of like the chairs we were actually sitting in were like the Fliplanthropy chairs. Like it felt like I don't know, it felt like it gave us an opportunity to just always be immersed in the world of the set, in a weird way. Like, so yeah, like there were definitely moments where I felt like um I'm like, hey, like I like can I be your guys' real AD on this show? So yeah, but other than that, like, it was pretty casual, because the whole time it wasn't like wrapped in within that world. It would just felt that way for me and like the crew, of course. Yeah.
And what's Nathan Fielder like as a director, and how did he manage his set?
Well, to be honest, like I feel like I like again, like the direction was very little unless it was necessary and like the scene needed that kind of like staging or direction, right? So like, and I remember the cameras being like far away for a lot of like our shots when we were doing things as like a crew and stuff like
Kind
that.
of leading into that reality TV style thing where you don't feel you're being filmed as such.
Yeah. And there was like this scene too, like I remember in particular, it was outside of like the complex and I was on the phone calling I forgot his name, but it was one of the characters from the crew and he had left and I was calling him for Whitney and I don't even remember where the camera was when we were shooting that scene, but it was nowhere around in the parking lot. And then when I saw the clip, it was inside of one of the offices and it was kind of just like zooming and like following us. And I noticed a lot of that in the show. It just felt very like it was far away and it kind of like would just kind of like creep in on you and the situation and whatever was going on.
Like obviously you've mentioned you kind of would see your bits being filmed on set. You had maybe some of the script. Like what was your reaction seeing the curse for the first time, and what was it like to kind of see it all put together?
I remember cracking up the first episode. Like I just remember finding it absolutely hysterical. And I loved how it drew me in both comedically and like seriously. Like that was the part of it again that I loved and it just kept me at the edge of my seat. And then it just took a bizarre twist, which just for me, like I just loved it even more. But yeah, like I just remember laughing hysterically whenever the the reality TV stuff came on, and just it was so like the acting and everything was so it felt real. Like I felt like I was watching an episode, like in the laundromat when it's playing in the corner of the laundromat. You have like the stupid HGTV reality show, or when you're in the gym. I see it all the time when I'm at Planet Fitness. And I find those things comical in real life too. So I can understand like like Nathan Fielder and his eye and like what he did, and for me, like something as subtle as that brought tears to my eyes, and I would die of laughter. So it was just little thing like subtle things like that, and I thought it was hysterical, and it's always much better. Not always, but for the most part, hopefully, much better when it is finally brought to life and it's off of the page, and you can see what they did. And for me, I think there was again, like I didn't know what to expect. Like the stuff that I've done before, as far as like the TV shows that I've done before, I knew exactly what to expect as far as like just like the script that I read and what I'm gonna see, because they all have like the same tone and pace and feel at the end of the day, those network TV shows.
It was always one of those shows that me and my partner watched every episode together, and it'd just be like you'd be watching something and it'd be like, where is this going? And you're shooting ideas and you had no idea what that next thing would be. And when we got to that finale episode, like we'd never in a million years have bet on it going to be that. And you just felt like even just sitting there thinking about some of those scenes, I just feel like that little uncomfortableness in my seat. It was so powerful. Like, what did you think of the that ending? I know I'm never gonna ever forget it, and it's like one of those ones I just there's so many friends. I'm like, what did you think, etc. It's so great and ambiguous at the same time.
Yeah, same. The ambiguity of it, I think, and just the shock and the thrill of it. That I want to know what's next. Like if there's a what's next, and sometimes I don't know. It just kind of it left me flabbergasted. Flabbergasted, uncomfortable, and uh unsatiated.
And it's one of those things you kind of think there's people going to talk about this show for years to come. Like I think there's like been a first wave of people that have watched it on Paramount Plus or Showtime, and then there's going to be more people that are going to constantly come into this. Like I think when I watched like Nathan for You for the first time, I wasn't in that first wave, but maybe like that second group, and then it just seems to blow up every year of people discovering it more. And I think it's going to be the same with the curse and so on. And people will be like, "How? Oh, I slept on this one, or I didn't realize this was out." And I think it's going to grow and grow.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so, and I don't doubt that at all.
You mentioned obviously this was like an A24 project as well. Have you got any kind of favorite films or TV shows that they've done?
Yes, I love A24. I I love A24 and the work that they've been doing. They actually, to be honest with you, I told you earlier that like I loved horror as a kid. I mean, I still love horror. Horror is one of my favorite genres. And for me, A24 revived horror films. Because there was a point where I felt like horror films just weren't the same as when I was a kid. And not because I don't scare the same, but because they just, I don't know, they just weren't good. I couldn't find any good ones anymore. And they were just regurgitating, and they still regurgitate some of the classics. And I mean, yeah, like I think like The Strangers was probably like the last like good horror film I had seen in a long time. And then A24, I mean, I'm a huge fan of like Ari Aster and Hereditary and Beau is Afraid,
That's another
Midsummer.
one I think people are going to think that they've slept on is Beau is Afraid. I know it did do the
Yeah, that
box office,
one.
but I remembered watching that in the cinema and very different to like The Curse, but watching that going, where's
Oh
this
my
going?
God.
And just like things would happen, you're
Yeah.
like, I don't know what I think about this, but I'm really reacting to it, and that's something special in
Yes.
itself.
Yeah. Yeah. I just love like the creative risk and choices and I don't know how it still managed to evoke the emotion and provoke the thought, but it's done in a way that's at least creatively very refreshing,
Especially
in a way
horror.
that's
It's the genre I'm interested in the least because it's just like it's the same. I know where it's going all the time. It's those tropes, and I think of like Hereditary, where I'm like, oh, I didn't like the beginning when that young girl's killed. I'm like,
oh my
didn't see that
God.
coming. Like she was our first ever guest on this podcast years ago. She was this. She's a now little like goth teenager, and it was just like you watch that going, oh. I thought this was going one way. It's taking me wildly different directions. So yeah,
Yeah,
fantastic choices.
yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, and then some other ones I love obviously Pearl X. Very excited for Maxine to come
Yeah, I think
out.
the trailer's out due soon, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, I'm excited for that one. And then aside from horror, I mean, The Whale. Um, I don't know if you've seen Close. That one
Yeah,
was
I have. Yeah, really. That again, very underseen one. Like that was another one. Didn't see, like I thought this film was going in a certain direction, and you just get that whiplash like 20 minutes in of going, oh, this is not what I expected, and it was all the more brutal for it.
hmm hmm I just remember crying for like majority of that movie. Um, uh, Beef is I mean,
Yeah, see, they're making a second season of that one as well now. I saw that got announced
yeah.
recently. It's a great cast.
Oh my God, it's great. I mean, Steven, he's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant. He deserves all the acclaim he's been getting for that show. It's a great show.
So what's next for yourself?
Well, I haven't been working because of the strike. And I still feel like I'm feeling the lingering effects of that. Um, I mean, I have done some independent movies that I'll be honest, I don't know where they stand, if they're going to get shelved or get released now or like 10 years from now. But if they do come out, one of them in which I was a lead in opposite Danny Trejo, it's called Seven Cemeteries. And it's like a gritty Western comedy. I don't want to spoil it, but let's just say that it won't be something that you would expect to see.
Yeah. I think we've established we both quite enjoy those types of films, so
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Yeah, that I mean that one's unreleased. Hopefully it comes out and people can see it. But if not, I always refer to Chicago Fire. It was the first job I got, and it's also a role I was really proud of, and just a job that I really enjoyed doing. And I feel like one of the jobs that highlights my work and my acting the most so far, at least professionally, and what from what people could find.
So where can people keep up to date about these maybe future projects or any social media that you might want to recommend folk to follow?
Yeah, I'm only really on Instagram. So my Instagram is its Samantha Ashley. And yeah, people can keep up with me there and look at my work on IMDb pretty much.
Well, thank you so much, Samantha. I really appreciate you, like you giving up your time and hearing about your experience on the curse. As I say, it was a great role and all that sort of stuff, and excited to see what comes next for you. I can only imagine what a bizarre and incredible experience that whole few months shooting it must have been.
Yeah, it was great. Above anything else, it was just really fun, a lot of learning, and it was a great experience.